Hey guys! Tonight we slip into the dusty, sun-scorched streets of a Mesopotamian city, around 2000 BC, where the air hums with the clang of hammers and the scent of molten metal. Picture yourself standing in the heart of a bustling forge, where sparks dance like fireflies, and the heat wraps around you like a too-tight hug. We're diving into the story of the first mirror. A shiny bronze disc that changed how people saw themselves. Literally. Back then, survival was the game, and vanity, well, let's just say you probably won't survive this tale without wondering how anyone looked decent without a mirror. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I'm curious where you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand in the forge, squinting through the haze of smoke. The craftsman, a wiry man with calloused hands, hunches over a glowing bronze disc. His name's lost to time, but let's call him Enki, after the god of craft. Enki's not chasing fame, he's just trying to make something useful. Maybe a shield or a plate. But today, something wild happens. He polishes the bronze with a rough stone, grinding away imperfections, and the surface starts to gleam. He pauses, tilts it, and boom! His own face stares back. Not a murky puddle reflection, but a clear, sharp image. His crooked nose, his squinting eyes, even the sweat beading on his forehead. It's like he's trapped a piece of himself in the metal. This moment, around 2000 BC, marks the birth of the mirror in Mesopotamia. Historians pin this as a turning point. Bronze mirrors, polished to a reflective sheen, show up in archaeological digs from this era. They weren't just tools, they were game changers. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some early mirrors were so small, barely bigger than your palm, that you'd need the eyes of a hawk to catch your full face. Imagine Enki squinting at his tiny reflection, wondering if his beard's on point. Historians still argue whether these first mirrors were practical tools or status symbols. Did people really need them, or were they just flexing wealth? You watch Enki experiment, tilting the disc in the firelight. The forge smells like charred wood and metal, and the heat makes your tunic stick to your skin. Enki's not alone. Apprentices scurry around, hauling clay molds and bellows. One kid, probably no older than 12, trips over a pile of scrap bronze and sends it clattering. Enki doesn't even flinch. He's too busy staring at his reflection, like he's just discovered a new kind of magic. You can't blame him. Before this, the best mirror was a still pool of water, and good luck finding one in the desert. Puddles don't exactly scream self-care routine. The bronze disc isn't perfect. It's heavy, a little warped, and the reflection's got a warm golden tint, not like the crisp glass mirrors you're used to. But for Enki, it's revolutionary. He runs his fingers over the surface, smudging it with soot, then polishes it again. You can almost hear his brain whirring. What else can this do? He doesn't know it yet, but this accidental invention is about to ripple through Mesopotamia, from dusty workshops to the perfumed halls of nobles. And yeah, it's going to make some people way too obsessed with their looks. You step closer, dodging a stray spark from the fire. Enki's muttering to himself, probably cursing the gods for making his forehead so shiny. Joke's on him. Mirrors are about to make everyone else just as self-conscious. The forge is alive with noise. Hammers pounding, apprentices shouting, and somewhere, a goat bleating like it's auditioning for a Mesopotamian talent show. Enki doesn't care. He's holding the world's first selfie machine, and he's got no idea how it'll change everything. You're standing at ground zero of vanity, and it's kind of thrilling, isn't it? To think this chunk of bronze is about to make people care about their appearance in ways they never did before. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Enki's just one guy, and this is just one mirror. You glance around the forge, taking in the clay tablets stacked in a corner, etched with cuneiform tallies of bronze and barley. The world outside is harsh. Floods, droughts, and the occasional raider who thinks your village looks like a free buffet. But here, in this smoky workshop, something new is born. Enki lifts the disc again, catching the flicker of firelight. And you can't help but wonder, what's it like to see yourself for the first time? Not just a vague shape, but every line, every scar. It's a little unsettling, like meeting a stranger who's also you. You linger, watching Enki's face shift from confusion to awe. He's not thinking about fame or fortune, just the sheer weirdness of seeing himself so clearly. You're tempted to nudge him and say, "Buddy, you just invented the original Instagram filter." But you don't. Instead, you let the moment sink in. The weight of it. This bronze disc, born in a gritty forge, is about to spark a whole new way of living. And you're here to see it happen.
You leave Enki's forge behind, the clang of hammers fading as you step into the bustling streets of a Mesopotamian city where the air smells of baked clay and spiced bread. The bronze mirror, that shiny disc Enki stumbled upon, is starting to make waves, and you're about to see how it captivates the women of this world. Picture yourself weaving through a crowded market, past stalls piled with dyed fabrics and clay pots. Women, draped in linen robes, haggle over beads and coal, their voices rising over the bleat of goats. But now, thanks to that polished bronze, they're not just guessing how they look, they're checking. You pause near a shaded courtyard where a woman, let's call her Inanna after the goddess of love, sits with a small bronze mirror in her lap. She's maybe 20, her dark hair braided with lapis beads that catch the sun. She tilts the mirror, studying her reflection with a mix of curiosity and glee. Her fingers trace the kohl lining her eyes, smudged just so to make them pop. Before mirrors, she'd rely on her sister's opinion or a quick glance in a water jar. Now she's her own critic, and she's loving it. The mirror's surface, warm from the sun, shows her every detail, her arched brows, the curve of her lips, even a tiny scar above her cheek. It's like she's seeing herself for the first time, and you can feel the thrill radiating off her. This obsession with appearance isn't just an honest thing. Historical records from around 2000 BC show Mesopotamian women using mirrors to perfect their look, piling on jewelry and makeup like they're prepping for a royal banquet. Cosmetics were big business: kohl for eyes, ochre for cheeks, and even crushed beetle shells for that perfect red lip. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some women mixed their makeup with crocodile dung, believing it kept their skin youthful. Yeah, you heard that right. Crocodile dung. Imagine Inanna dabbing that on her face, thinking it's the secret to eternal glow. Historians still argue whether these early beauty rituals were about personal pride or social pressure. Did women adorn themselves for joy or to climb the cutthroat ladder of status? You watch Inanna adjust a copper bangle, checking her reflection to make sure it sits just right. The mirror is small, barely bigger than her hand, and she has to angle it awkwardly to see her whole face. You can't help but smirk. Good luck getting a full body shot with that thing. It's no floor-length mirror, but it's enough to spark a revolution. Women like Inanna are spending hours perfecting their look, layering necklaces and pinning their hair with bone combs. The market buzzes with chatter about the latest bronze mirrors, each one a little shinier, a little pricier. Merchants, sensing a trend, hawk them like they're selling slices of the moon. You step closer, catching the scent of myrrh on Inanna's skin. She's not just primping for herself, she's got an audience. Her neighbors, lounging under a date palm, steal glances, whispering about her new earrings. In this city, appearance is currency. A well-adorned woman signals wealth, fertility, maybe even a connection to the gods. Inanna knows this, and her mirror is her weapon. She tilts it again, catching the sunlight, and you swear she's practicing her smile like it's a performance. You're tempted to whisper, "Work it, girl," but you hold back, letting her have her moment. The street hums with life. Kids chasing a stray dog, a potter yelling about his wares, and somewhere, a lute player plucking a tune that sounds suspiciously like it's stuck in his head. Inanna's mirror reflects it all, a tiny window into this chaotic, vibrant world. You notice her pause, frowning at a smudge of coal. She licks her thumb, wipes it clean, and checks again. It's a small act, but it feels huge, like she's claiming control over how the world sees her. Before mirrors, beauty was a guess. Now it's a science, and Inanna is acing it. You wander deeper into the market, past a stall where a merchant polishes another bronze disc, shouting about its godlike clarity. You roll your eyes. Sales pitches haven't changed in 4,000 years. But you get it. These mirrors are more than tools. They're power. Women like Inanna are using them to craft their image, to stand out in a city where everyone's watching. And yeah, maybe they're a little vain, but who wouldn't be? You try going a week without a mirror and see how confident you feel. Joke's on you if you think you'd nail the look without checking. As you move through the crowd, you catch glimpses of other women clutching mirrors, each one lost in her own reflection. It's like a quiet rebellion, this newfound ability to see themselves clearly. The bronze mirror, born in Enki's forge, is no longer just a craftsman's trick. It's a spark igniting vanity, pride, and maybe a touch of obsession. You glance back at Inanna, who's now braiding a ribbon into her hair, mirror balanced on her knee. She's not just preparing for the day, she's preparing for the world. And you're starting to realize this little disc is about to rewrite the rules of how people present themselves, one reflection at a time.
You slip away from the market's clamor, where Inanna and her mirror are stealing the show, and step into the cool, shadowed halls of a Mesopotamian palace. The air here smells of cedar and incense, and the walls are carved with lions and gods flexing their divine muscles. You're about to see how the bronze mirror, that shiny toy from Enki's forge, has landed in the hands of nobles, people with way too much time and gold to burn. These folks aren't just checking their look, they're practically worshiping their own reflections. Picture yourself standing in a grand chamber, where a nobleman, let's call him Lord Gilgamesh, because why not, lounges on a cushioned bench holding a polished bronze disc like it's a sacred relic. Gilgamesh, decked out in a fringed robe and a beard that probably took an hour to curl, tilts the mirror to catch his profile. He's not subtle about it. His eyes narrow, inspecting every angle of his face, from the gold dust sprinkled in his hair to the perfectly trimmed edges of his mustache. You can almost hear him thinking, yeah, I'm basically a god. The mirror's reflection, warm and slightly distorted, shows a man obsessed with his own grandeur. He adjusts a heavy gold necklace, making sure it gleams just right in the torchlight. This isn't just vanity, it's a performance, and the mirror's his stage. Bronze mirrors by 2000 BC were status symbols in Mesopotamia, found in the tombs of elites alongside jewelry and weapons. Only the wealthy could afford these polished discs, often inlaid with ivory or lapis lazuli. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some nobles had mirrors so tiny, think the size of a modern compact, that they'd need a servant to hold it just to see their whole face. Imagine Gilgamesh barking at some poor attendant, "Higher, you fool," while trying to check his eyeliner. Historians still argue whether these mirrors were purely for self-admiration or had ritual purposes. Did nobles use them to commune with gods, or were they just flexing their wealth? You watch Gilgamesh preen, his fingers tracing the mirror's edge carved with tiny cuneiform prayers. The chamber's opulent, woven rugs, alabaster jars, a table groaning under the weight of figs and wine. Servants glide in and out silent as shadows, while the musician strums a lyre in the corner, probably wondering if he'll ever get a break. Gilgamesh doesn't notice. He's too busy tilting the mirror to catch the light, smirking at his own reflection like he's just won a chariot race. You can't help but roll your eyes. Dude, it's a piece of metal. not a love letter from Inanna herself. The mirror's power isn't just in what it shows, it's in what it means. For nobles like Gilgamesh, appearance is everything. A flawless look signals divine favor, wealth, and the right to rule. He's not just primping, he's crafting an image that says, "Bow down, peasants." You notice a servant girl nearby, polishing another mirror with a soft cloth. She steals a quick glance at her own reflection before handing it to Gilgamesh's wife, who's fussing over her emerald earrings. The mirrors passed around like a prized heirloom, each noble taking their turn to bask in their own glow. It's like a proto-selfie culture, except nobody's posting #blessed on clay tablets. You wander closer, catching the faint scent of myrrh on Gilgamesh's robe. He's muttering about a festival tonight where he'll parade before the city's priests and merchants. The mirror's his secret weapon, letting him perfect every detail. His kohl-rimmed eyes, his oiled beard, even the way his cloak drapes over one shoulder. You're tempted to whisper, "Less is more, buddy," but you don't. Instead, you watch him hand the mirror to a scribe, who inspects his own reflection and immediately regrets skipping breakfast. Everyone's caught in this mirror fever, chasing a version of themselves that's just a little more perfect. The palace hums with quiet activity, servants refilling oil lamps, a guard sharpening his spear, and somewhere a peacock squawking like it's auditioning for the royal menagerie. You glance at the mirror in Gilgamesh's hand, its surface catching the flicker of torchlight. It's not just a tool, it's a status flex, a way to say, "I can afford to care about my face." And yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, but you get it. If you had to rule a city or impress a priestess, you'd probably check your look too. Joke's on Gilgamesh, though. Mirrors don't lie, but they don't exactly flatter either. As you linger, you notice the mirror's reflection picking up the room's details. The glint of gold, the swirl of smoke, the flicker of ambition in Gilgamesh's eyes. This bronze disc, born in a gritty forge, has climbed the social ladder faster than a chariot on a downhill slope. It's not just about vanity anymore, it's about power, control, and the ability to shape how the world sees you. You can almost feel the weight of it, the way it's turning nobles into their own biggest fans. And as Gilgamesh tilts the mirror one last time, you know this little invention is about to shake up more than just his ego. You slip out of the palace's perfumed halls, where Gilgamesh was busy admiring his own beard, and find yourself back in the gritty heart of a Mesopotamian workshop. The air's thick with the tang of molten metal and sweat, and the ground crunches under your feet with bits of charcoal and clay. You're here to uncover the raw, messy process of making those bronze mirrors that have everyone from Inanna to nobles obsessed. Picture yourself standing by a forge, where a craftsman, let's call him Zababa, after a war god with a knack for destruction, wrestles with a glowing lump of bronze. He's not just making a shiny disc, he's forging a piece of history, one hammer strike at a time. Zababa's hands are scarred, his tunic stained with soot. He's pouring a mix of copper and tin into a clay mold, the heat making the air shimmer like a desert mirage. The mold's shaped like a small disc, about the size of a modern saucer, with carved patterns along the edge. Spirals, maybe a nod to the river gods. Once the bronze cools, he'll pry it out and start the real work, polishing. You watch him grab a rough stone, grinding the surface until it gleams. It's slow, tedious, and his arms must feel like they're about to fall off. But when he holds up the disc, catching the flicker of firelight, you see it, a faint golden reflection of his weathered face. By 2000 BC, Mesopotamia had mastered bronze working, blending copper and tin to create tools, weapons, and yes, mirrors. The process wasn't easy. Bronze was pricey, and polishing it to a reflective sheen took hours, sometimes days. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some craftsmen used crushed seashells or river sand as abrasives, giving mirrors a slightly gritty shine that'd make you wince if you tried it on your phone screen. Historians still argue whether these mirrors were mass-produced or custom-made for elites. Were workshops churning them out like ancient assembly lines, or was each one a bespoke masterpiece? You step closer, dodging a pile of broken molds that look like they've seen better days. Zababa's muttering curses under his breath, probably at the bronze for cooling too fast. The forge is a chaos of tools, tongs, hammers, and clay crucibles stacked like a potter's bad day. An apprentice, a kid with more enthusiasm than skill, fans the fire with a reed mat, sending sparks flying. One lands on your sandal, and you hop back, wondering if flip-flops would have been a smarter choice for time travel. Zababa's focus doesn't waver. He's polishing the disc with a softer stone now, his movements almost tender, like he's coaxing a secret from the metal. The mirror's surface isn't perfect. It's got a warm, yellowish tint, and tiny scratches catch the light. You lean in, catching your own distorted reflection next to Zababa's. It's not Instagram clear, but it's enough to show the dirt smudged on your cheek from wandering the city. Zababa doesn't care about his own face. He's thinking about the merchant who'll pay a sack of barley for this disc, or maybe a noble, like Gilgamesh, who paraded at a banquet. You can't help but grin. Imagine Zababa's face if you told him his handiwork would end up in a museum labeled Bronze Mirror, Unknown Artisan. The workshop buzzes with noise, the hiss of cooling metal, the apprentice's off-key humming, and a stray dog barking outside like it's got a personal vendetta. Zababa wipes sweat from his brow, leaving a streak of soot that makes him look like he's auditioning for a warrior's face paint. You're tempted to hand him the mirror and say, "Check yourself, man," but you don't. Instead, you watch him test the disc, tilting it to catch the forge's glow. The reflection wavers, but it's there. A glimpse of his eyes, tired but sharp. He nods, satisfied, and sets it aside to start another. You glance around, noticing other discs in various stages, some still rough, others half-polished, a few etched with intricate designs. Making mirrors isn't just craft, it's alchemy, turning raw ore into something that holds a person's soul, or at least their ego. The process was brutal. Mining copper was backbreaking, and tin wasn't exactly lying around in Mesopotamia's dirt. Traders hauled it from far-off lands, maybe even Afghanistan, making each mirror a small fortune. You realize why these things were such a flex for nobles. Every shine screamed, "I'm rich enough to own this." As you linger, the forge's heat wraps around you like a heavy cloak. Zababa's already onto the next mold, pouring bronze with the focus of a man who knows one slip could ruin a week's work. You can't help but admire the grind, literally. This little disc, born from fire and sweat, is about to land in the hands of someone like Inanna, who'll use it to perfect her coal, or Gilgamesh, who'll stare into it like it's a portal to his own greatness. You're standing in the birthplace of vanity's favorite tool, and it's as raw and real as it gets. You step away from Zababa's forge, where the heat and hammer strikes still echo in your ears, and find yourself in the heart of a Mesopotamian city where the bronze mirror's shine is doing more than just catching faces. The streets pulse with life. Mud brick walls bake under the sun, and a ziggurat towers nearby, its steps a silent promise to the gods. You're here to trace how that polished disc, born in Enki's workshop, is shaking up social hierarchies, turning appearances into a new kind of power. Picture yourself in a bustling plaza where the air smells of dust, roasted sesame, and the sharp edge of ambition. Merchants, priests, and laborers move like pieces on a game board, each one touched by the mirror's growing influence. You spot a trader, his robe stitched with bright threads, clutching a small bronze mirror as he barters over a pile of wool. He glances at his reflection, tweaking his turban to sit just right, like he's about to seal a deal with his charm alone. Nearby, a priestess adjusts her headdress, using a mirror to check the angle of her lapis beads before she strides toward the temple. These mirrors, by 2000 BC, were elite treasures in Mesopotamia, often tucked into the tombs of the wealthy, alongside gold and ivory. They weren't just for grooming. They were badges of status, shouting wealth louder than a chariot full of barley. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some mirrors were so small, barely bigger than a coin, that users had to squint like they were deciphering cuneiform in the dark. Imagine the trader holding his tiny mirror, thinking he's nailing the look, only to miss a smudge of coal on his cheek. Historians still argue whether mirrors deepened social divides or created new opportunities. Did they lock power in the hands of elites, or could a savvy merchant use one to fake his way up the ladder? You edge closer to the trader, catching the mirror's warm golden glint. He's not just checking his face, he's crafting an image that says, "Trust me, I've got this." A quick tilt of the disc, and he's sure his beard's sharp enough to cut through any negotiation. You can't help but grin. Good luck closing that deal if your turban's lopsided, buddy. The mirror's magic isn't just in its shine, it's in how it lets people control their place in this city's pecking order. A flawless appearance signals wealth, divine favor, maybe even a shot at the king's court. In this world, looking good is as good as a royal seal. The priestess draws your eye next, her mirror catching the sun like a fallen star. She's young, her movements precise as she adjusts her kohl, her reflection showing eyes that could command a crowd. You're tempted to whisper, "Hope you didn't skip lunch for that look," but you stay quiet. Her image isn't just for her, it's for the temple, the gods, the onlookers who will judge her every step. Mirrors are rewriting the rules. Appearance now matters as much as lineage or wealth. The plaza buzzes around you. Kids chase a stray dog. A potter hawks his unbreakable jars. Spoiler, they're not. And a donkey brays like it's auditioning for the city's worst choir. You notice a laborer, his hands rough with clay, watching the priestess with a mix of awe and envy. He'll never own a mirror, but he smooths his tunic anyway, like he's hoping to borrow some of her shine. You wander past a woman weaving baskets, her fingers flying over the reeds. She doesn't have a mirror, but you bet she's heard the gossip. Maybe she's saving up, dreaming of seeing her own face, instead of trusting her sister's "you look fine." The mirror's ripple effect is everywhere. Nobles like Gilgamesh use it to flex their status, merchants to seal deals, priestesses to dazzle the divine. It's like the city's caught in a high-stakes beauty contest, and that bronze disc is the scorekeeper. You can feel the shift. Mirrors are creating a new hierarchy, where how you look can open doors or slam them shut. Even the laborer, mirrorless, is caught in the game, fussing with his hair like it might earn him a better spot in the crowd. The sun dips lower, casting long shadows across the plaza. You linger by a stall where a merchant polishes another mirror, shouting about its godlike clarity. You roll your eyes. Sales pitches haven't changed in 4,000 years, but you get it. These mirrors are power tools, letting people shape how the world sees them. The priestess tucks her mirror into a robe, her poise unshaken, and strides toward the temple. The trader pockets his, ready to charm his next customer. The laborer trudges back to work, but not before stealing one last glance at the crowd, like he's memorizing the look of success. You're starting to see it. Enki's shiny disc isn't just reflecting faces, it's reflecting ambition, status, and the human urge to be more than you are. This little invention, born in a sweaty forge, is carving new lines in the sand. It's making people care about their image in ways they never did before, turning appearance into a currency that buys respect, influence, or at least a better seat at the banquet. You're tempted to shout, "It's just bronze," but you don't. Instead, you watch the city move, each person chasing their own version of perfect, all because of a polished disc that lets them see themselves clearly. Joke's on them if they think the gods care about their hairline, but down here, the mortals are watching every detail. You drift away from the bustling plaza, where mirrors were turning heads and egos, and find yourself crossing a vast desert, the sun scorching your back as you arrive in ancient Egypt, around 2000 BC. The air smells of dry earth and the faint sweet tang of the Nile's reeds. Here, the bronze mirror's story echoes Mesopotamia's, but with an Egyptian twist. Think lotus flowers, gold, and a dash of divine mystery. Picture yourself standing in a shaded courtyard where a noblewoman, draped in pleated linen, holds a polished bronze disc, her reflection shimmering like a gift from Ra. You're about to see how Egypt's elite embraced mirrors, weaving them into their world of beauty, ritual, and power. The noblewoman, let's call her Nefert after beauty itself, tilts her mirror, catching the sunlight streaming through a palm frond canopy. Her face, framed by a wig braided with gold beads, glows in the reflection. She's checking her kohl, applied with a precision that would make a modern makeup artist jealous. Her mirror, larger than Inanna's back in Mesopotamia, is shaped like an ankh, the symbol of life, its handle carved with lotus blossoms. She adjusts a turquoise amulet, ensuring it sits perfectly against her collarbone. This isn't just vanity, it's a sacred act, aligning her appearance with the god's perfection. By 2000 BC, bronze mirrors were prized in Egypt, often found in the tombs of high-ranking women alongside cosmetics and jewelry. These weren't just tools, they were symbols of status and divinity, sometimes dedicated to Hathor, the goddess of beauty and love. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Egyptian mirrors were polished so obsessively that they were stored in leather pouches to avoid scratches. Imagine Nefert treating her mirror like it's a priceless heirloom, because, well, it kind of was. Historians still argue whether these mirrors were primarily for daily grooming or had deeper ritual significance. Were they just for looking good, or did they help channel divine energy during ceremonies? You step closer, the courtyard stone tiles cool under your feet. Nefert's maid, a girl with quick hands, offers a palette of malachite green and galena black for her eyes. Nefert dips a reed brush into the kohl, her movement steady as she traces her lids, checking the mirror with every stroke. The reflection's warm, slightly golden, not as crisp as the glass mirrors you know, but it's enough to show every detail. Her arched brows, the faint freckles she hides with ochre paste. You can't help but smirk. She's basically inventing the cat-eye look, and it's working. Joke's on her if she thinks the Nile crocodiles care about her makeup game, though. The courtyard hums quietly. A fountain gurgles, a scribe mutters as he scratches papyrus nearby, and somewhere a cat, because Egypt, slinks past with a haughty glance. Nefert's mirror catches more than her face. It reflects the sunlight, picking up the courtyard's palms and the glint of her gold rings. She's not just preening for herself, she's preparing for a festival at the Temple of Hathor, where her flawless appearance will signal her closeness to the divine. You notice a priest nearby, holding his own mirror, smaller but just as shiny, checking his shaved head before a ritual. Mirrors here aren't just for the ladies, they're for anyone with status to flaunt. You wander toward the Nile's edge, where fishermen haul nets and a heron stalks the shallows. The mirror's influence feels different in Egypt, more about cosmic order than less about social climbing. Nefert's careful grooming isn't just vanity, it's a way to honor Ma'at, the principle of balance and truth. A perfect reflection means a perfect soul, or so the priests might say. You're tempted to tell her, relax, the gods probably don't mind a smudged eyeliner, but you don't. Instead, you watch her hand the mirror to her maid, who polishes it with a cloth, her own reflection a fleeting glimpse before she tucks it away. Egypt's mirrors, like Mesopotamia's, are bronze, polished to a warm sheen with sand or pumice. The process is grueling. Miners haul copper from Sinai, tin from distant lands, and craftsmen sweat over furnaces to blend them. Some mirrors even have ivory handles or are inlaid with faience, blue as the Nile at dusk. You glance back at Nefert, now adjusting her wig's beads, her mirror resting on a reed mat. The craftsmanship reminds you of Zababa's forge, but Egypt's mirrors feel more ceremonial, like they're not just tools, but talismans. The way Nefert holds hers, reverent yet practical, makes you wonder if she sees Hathor herself in the reflection. As you linger, the courtyard's peace wraps around you, the splash of the fountain, the rustle of palms, and the distant chant of priests. Egypt's mirrors carry a weight Mesopotamia's don't, tied to gods and eternity rather than just status. Nefert's reflection isn't just her face, it's her place in the cosmos, polished and perfect. You feel the pull of this world, where beauty meets divinity, and the bronze mirror, gleaming in the sun, is the bridge between the two.